Spain's billionaire class doesn't behave like the American tech titans or the Middle Eastern sovereign dynasties. Their wealth isn't loud, and it isn't meant to be. Spain's richest families built their fortunes through decades of patience, conservatism, and total control over industries the world depends on. From retail and infrastructure to energy and global real estate, these families mastered a simple truth that outsiders always underestimate. Real power isn't in headlines, it's in ownership. Ownership of companies that move millions of people every day. Ownership of logistics, chains no one sees but everyone relies on. Ownership of land, ports, and capital that quietly compound year after year. While the world looks to Silicon Valley for innovation and Dubai for spectacle, Spain's wealthiest families work behind closed doors, expanding empires with minimal noise and maximum precision. Today, we're going inside their world. This is the countdown of the richest families in Spain. Number 15. Entrecanales family. At number 15 is the Entrecanales family, a dynasty whose wealth is built not on glamour, but on engineering, infrastructure, and global energy assets. Their name isn't known to most people outside Spain, and that's exactly how they prefer it. The family controls Acciona, a global leader in renewable energy, infrastructure development, water desalination, and sustainable transportation. Their empire includes wind farms operating across 5 continents, high-speed rail construction, bridges, dams, and some of the world's most advanced sustainability projects. While other Spanish fortunes have risen and fallen with markets or political shifts, the Entrecanales dynasty has stayed remarkably stable because they own the one thing the world can't function without: infrastructure. Their renewable energy division alone generates billions annually, powering cities from Australia to Mexico. Their construction arm continues to win major contracts in Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. What makes them unique is the quiet sophistication of their expansion strategy. They invest heavily in long-cycle assets, avoid speculative ventures, and maintain strict family governance rules that preserve control. Their wealth is estimated in the low billions, and their influence extends far beyond Spain due to the nature of their portfolio. Infrastructure families don't need visibility. They need leverage. And the Entrecanales family has built a global reputation for delivering complex projects on time, on budget, and with technological leadership that places them among the world's most powerful industrial dynasties. Most people don't realize that Spanish renewable energy giants have shaped the global transition to green power, and the Entrecanales family has been at the center of that shift for decades. Their fortune grows not by chance but by understanding where the world is heading and building the assets that future economies will depend on. Number 14. Catalan Soler family. At number 14 is the Catalan Soler family, a dynasty whose wealth comes primarily from energy and banking, with deep ties to gas natural, now known as Naturgy. Their presence in Spain's energy sector stretches back generations, making them one of the most influential families in the country's industrial landscape. While the company has undergone mergers, rebranding, and restructuring, the Soler family has maintained significant influence through strategic shareholding and long-term alliances with other major stakeholders. Energy wealth behaves differently from typical corporate wealth. It compounds slowly, protected by regulatory structures and essential demand. The Soler dynasty leveraged this advantage, expanding their wealth through utilities, gas distribution networks, real estate, and diversified investments across Spain's financial sector. Their fortune is measured in the billions, sustained by stable dividends, and the type of corporate partnerships that rarely make the news but quietly shape national energy policy. What sets the Soler family apart is how they navigated decades of political and economic volatility. Spain's energy market has faced privatizations, liberalizations, global price fluctuations, and environmental transitions, yet the Soler family adapted to every shift. They formed key alliances with major banks, international energy funds, and infrastructure investors, ensuring their wealth remained insulated from short-term disruptions. Their influence extends into Catalan industry, philanthropy, and cultural heritage, making them one of the most respected and strategically positioned families in Spain. They represent the archetype of Spanish silent wealth, growing steadily in the background while continuing to shape energy distribution for millions of people. Number 13. Gallardo family. At number 13 is the fiercely private Gallardo family, owners of one of Spain's most successful pharmaceutical fortunes. Their company, Almirall, has become a global player in dermatology and specialty medicines, expanding through research, acquisitions, and strategic partnerships. Pharmaceutical wealth has a different rhythm. It requires decades of investment before profits materialize. But when a company succeeds, its patents, intellectual property, and global distribution networks create a long-term revenue engine. The Gallardo dynasty understands this better than most. Their leadership transformed Almirall from a small family company into a multinational enterprise with operations across Europe, the United States, and Latin America. Their portfolio includes breakthrough dermatological treatments, collaborations with major biotech firms, and a strong footprint in medical research. What makes them especially interesting is their resilience and discipline. Pharmaceutical families face enormous risk because a single failed drug can cost hundreds of millions. But the Gallardo family has maintained a diversified pipeline, balancing innovation with acquisitions that fortify revenue streams. Their wealth is estimated in the multi-billion range, supported not only by Almirall's performance but also by secondary investments and strategic holdings across Spain's healthcare sector. Few people outside the pharmaceutical world realize how influential the Gallardo dynasty has become. Their quiet approach, combined with scientific rigor and long-term vision, has secured their place among Spain's wealthiest families. They don't need public visibility. Their companies speak for them, and their influence continues to expand as global demand for dermatological treatments rises year after year. Number 12. Botin family. Here at number 12 is the Botin family, one of the most powerful banking dynasties in Europe, and the force behind Banco Santander, a financial institution that reshaped modern banking across 3 continents. Their influence began more than a century ago, but accelerated in the late 20th century under Emilio Botin, whose aggressive expansion strategy transformed Santander from a regional bank into one of the world's most valuable financial groups. Through acquisitions, mergers, and high-speed modernization, the family built a financial machine operating in Latin America, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe, serving over 100 million clients. What sets the Botin dynasty apart is the continuity of leadership. When Emilio Botin passed away, his daughter Ana Botin stepped in seamlessly, becoming one of the most influential women in global finance. Under her direction, Santander expanded digital banking, modernized its global operations, and strengthened its position as a heavyweight in European and international markets. The family's wealth is rooted not in speculation but in long-term ownership, governance control, and the steady compounding of value inside one of the planet's most important banks. Beyond finance, the Botin family invests in real estate, cultural initiatives, and philanthropic foundations that support art, education, and social development. Their influence is both economic and cultural, shaping Spain's presence in global finance while maintaining a disciplined and structured approach to generational wealth. Unlike other dynasties that diversify aggressively outside their main industry, the Botins mastered a single sector and built one of the world's strongest financial empires by doing it better than anyone else. Their fortune remains solidly in the multi-billion range, protected by institutional governance, international diversification, and a long tradition of leadership that positions the family as the backbone of Spain's modern financial identity. Number 11. Gallardo Ballart family. At number 11 is the Gallardo Ballart family, whose presence in Spain's business elite extends far beyond their immediate surname recognition. While closely connected to the Gallardo pharmaceutical dynasty, this branch built its own distinct fortune through industrial manufacturing, real estate, high-end retail investments, and diversified holdings across Spain and Europe. Their core wealth comes from decades of involvement in specialty chemicals and industrial production, sectors that rarely capture public attention but generate steady, recession-resistant revenue. They embody a principle that defines much of Spain's wealthiest families. The industries the public overlooks are the industries that quietly control the economy. Their investments include logistics infrastructure, premium office developments, manufacturing plants, and equity positions in global companies. Each of these assets produces a dependable cash flow that ensures the family's wealth compounds consistently with minimal volatility. What makes the Gallardo Ballart family uniquely strong is how they have leveraged generational knowledge. They understand the long-term transformation of European manufacturing and have positioned themselves to benefit from shifts toward clean energy technology, automation, and advanced materials. While their footprint is smaller than Spain's multi-billion-dollar retail or telecom dynasties, their wealth remains firmly in the billions. Their influence across Catalonia's industrial ecosystem has made them key players in the evolution of Spain's economic landscape. Their strategy is not explosive. It is methodical, built to last, and engineered to protect capital in a world where industry shapes national strength far more than the public realizes. Number 10. Abello family. At number 10 is the fiercely strategic Abello family, long regarded as one of Spain's most sophisticated financial dynasties. Their empire began with Juan Abello, a visionary investor who built his fortune in the pharmaceutical industry before transforming himself into one of Europe's most respected private equity figures. After selling Abello's early pharmaceutical interest to multinational firms, he reinvested heavily into industries with unmatched staying power: chemicals, conglomerates, real estate, transportation, and global equity markets. Today, the Abello family's wealth spans international investments, luxury properties, corporate holdings, and one of the most prestigious private art collections in Europe. What sets this dynasty apart is how deliberately they diversified. Many fortunes collapse because they cling to a single sector. The Abello family did the opposite. They built a portfolio that behaves like a financial fortress, protected by assets across multiple continents and industries. Their investments include significant stakes in energy groups, logistics companies, and global consumer brands. Their real estate operations stretch across Spain and major international capitals, generating recurring revenue through corporate leases and high-value property development. Even their art collection, featuring works by Goya, Picasso, El Greco, and other masters, is a form of cultural capital that grows in value every year. But the true secret to their longevity is discipline. They avoid political exposure, keep their operations private, and maintain a level of governance typical of institutional investors rather than traditional family businesses. Their net worth remains firmly in the multi-billion range, supported by a combination of conservative management, intelligent diversification, and the kind of refined strategic thinking that only a handful of families worldwide ever master. The Abello family understands that real wealth is not about risk, it's about control. And they have spent decades perfecting that model with near mathematical precision. Number 9. Koplowitz family. At number 9 is the deeply influential Koplowitz family, heirs to one of Spain's largest and most strategically built industrial fortunes. Their empire began with the construction giant FCC, a company that became synonymous with Spain's modernization, responsible for highways, water treatment plants, bridges, public works, and urban infrastructure across Europe and Latin America. The Koplowitz sisters, Alicia and Esther, inherited a business that was already powerful, but what they did with it over the next decades elevated the dynasty into the ranks of global elite wealth. Esther maintained controlling influence in FCC for years, steering it through economic cycles and expanding its footprint into international construction and environmental services. Alicia, who later divested her share, formed Omega Capital, one of Spain's most respected private investment firms, allocating capital into real estate, blue-chip equities, private equity funds, and high-value corporate stakes. What makes the Koplowitz family exceptional is how they preserved influence even after dividing their business interests. Instead of diluting their presence, the split allowed each sister to cultivate her own brand of financial excellence. Alicia focused on silent, conservative investments that generate stable returns with minimal risk. Esther, meanwhile, maintained a leadership role in heavy infrastructure, an industry that continues to produce long-term revenue streams tied to government contracts and essential services. Their combined wealth remains in the billions, with diversified assets spreading across Europe and the United States. Few families demonstrate the Spanish model of wealth as clearly as the Koplowitz dynasty. Discreet, diversified, and built to last. They do not rely on spectacle or public exposure. Their wealth grows through the kind of private sector influence that shapes entire cities, often without the public ever knowing their names. Number 8. Grifols family. At number 8 is the Grifols family, a dynasty whose wealth is rooted in biotechnology, transfusion medicine, and plasma-derived pharmaceutical innovation. Their company, Grifols SA, has grown into one of the world's largest producers of plasma-based therapies, serving millions of patients globally. This is a sector few people understand, but it is one of the most critical in modern medicine. Plasma treatments support immunodeficiencies, bleeding disorders, liver diseases, and a range of chronic conditions. Because their products are essential and difficult to substitute, the Grifols business model generates recurring, long-horizon revenue that continues to grow regardless of economic cycles. What sets the Grifols dynasty apart is how early they recognized the potential of plasma science. While other pharmaceutical companies chased blockbusters and short-term gains, Grifols invested in highly specialized research, massive plasma collection networks, and international manufacturing facilities. Today, they are one of the largest plasma collectors in the world, operating hundreds of centers across North America and Europe. Their global supply chain is an engineering feat on its own, involving advanced logistics, regulated biopharmaceutical operations, and scientific infrastructure that few competitors can match. The family's wealth is heavily tied to their long-term vision: build an industry that others cannot easily replicate. Their influence extends far beyond Spain's borders. They have made strategic acquisitions in the United States, expanded into biotech platforms, invested in diagnostics, and fortified their presence in hospital technology. The Grifols name is associated with scientific innovation, medical reliability, and financial endurance. Their fortune remains firmly in the multi-billion tier, reflecting decades of disciplined reinvestment, scientific leadership, and a global medical footprint that continues to expand year after year. Number 7. Lara family. At number 7 is the Lara family, one of Spain's most powerful publishing and media dynasties. Their wealth is centered on Grupo Planeta, the largest Spanish-language publishing house in the world, with more than 70 imprints, hundreds of best-selling authors, and a global marketplace that reaches Europe, Latin America, and beyond. While publishing may not seem like a high-margin industry compared to energy or telecom, Planeta's business model is far more diversified than casual observers realize. Their empire spans education, online learning platforms, audiovisual media, news networks, and one of Spain's most prestigious literary prizes. The Lara family built influence not just by producing books, but by shaping culture, information, and intellectual capital across the Spanish-speaking world. Their control of education systems through major institutions gives them a stable revenue base tied to long-term academic cycles. Their media operations provide reach, visibility, and influence across political and cultural sectors. And their publishing division remains unmatched in scale and relevance, responsible for launching careers, shaping public discourse, and preserving the Spanish literary tradition in dozens of countries. Wealth generated from cultural capital behaves differently. It grows slowly, expands through strategic acquisitions, and becomes more valuable as the brand strengthens. Planeta's extensive catalog, distribution networks, and digital transformation strategies have positioned the Lara family as media aristocracy, not by inheritance, but by building one of the most respected intellectual empires in the Spanish-speaking world. Their net worth places them solidly in the multi-billion range, supported by assets that will remain relevant for generations because culture, education, and information never stop being essential industries. Number 6. Rode family. At number 6 is the Rode family, a dynasty whose influence spans the Spanish-speaking advertising world, media measurement, corporate intelligence, and high-level strategic communications. Few families have shaped how companies advertise, measure audiences, or plan global brand strategy the way the Rode family has. Their core empire began with Media Planning Group, later expanding into Havas Media, through a transformative acquisition that positioned them among the most powerful media advisors in Europe. But the true genius of the Rode dynasty is how they built a business that doesn't depend on public visibility to generate extraordinary revenue. Advertising is only the surface layer. Their deeper influence comes from controlling the mechanisms that determine how billions of euros in marketing budgets are allocated every year. Audience analytics, consumer insights, media planning models, digital measurement technologies, and corporate intelligence networks all feed into the Rode family's multi-billion ecosystem. Their holdings include stakes in major agency groups, strategic consultancies, and high-value media analysis firms that operate across Europe, Latin America, and the United States. The family's power lies not in owning content, but in controlling what content gets funded, published, promoted, and distributed. This gives them a seat at the table in virtually every large corporate campaign that moves through Spain's commercial ecosystem. Their influence extends to political consulting, major sporting events, cultural institutions, and global brand strategy. For decades, major corporations have depended on their data, insights, and systems to make decisions that shape markets. Their wealth continues to grow through a combination of private holdings, diversified investments, and participation in some of the most profitable advertising networks in the world. The Rode family demonstrates that information, and the ability to interpret it, can be one of the most powerful assets a modern dynasty controls. They operate quietly, strategically, and with a level of corporate sophistication that few families anywhere in Europe have achieved. Number 5. Del Pino family. At number 5 is the Del Pino family, founders of Ferrovial, one of the most influential infrastructure and transportation conglomerates on the planet. When most people think about wealth, they imagine tech platforms, consumer brands, or luxury assets. But the Del Pino dynasty built something far more essential: the physical skeleton of the modern world. Ferrovial constructs and operates highways, airports, bridges, and critical transportation networks across Europe, North America, and emerging markets. Their assets include major stakes in global airports like Heathrow, high-capacity toll roads in the United States, and infrastructure concessions that generate recurring revenue for decades at a time. Infrastructure wealth behaves differently from any other type of fortune. Once a family controls an international network of contracted tolls and transport assets, their cash flow becomes predictable for generations. This is the foundation of the Del Pino family's multi-billion fortune. But it's not just about owning infrastructure. It's about understanding political negotiation, long-cycle investment, and international regulatory environments, skills that only the most disciplined families ever master. Ferrovial's expansions into the US, Canada, Poland, and Latin America required strategic alliances, deep capital reserves, and the ability to operate in markets where a single mistake can cost billions. The Del Pino family excelled in each of these categories. Today, they remain one of the most powerful dynasties in the global infrastructure sector, shaping how millions of people move across continents every single day. Their wealth is built on assets the world cannot function without, and that reality places them among the elite families who quietly control the foundations of modern society. Number 4. Entrecanales Domecq family. At number 4 is the Entrecanales Domecq family, a dynasty that bridges centuries-old traditions with modern global commerce. Their wealth originates from two pillars: the Entrecanales lineage, tied to infrastructure and engineering, and the Domecq heritage, one of the most important names in the history of Spanish wine and brandy production. The combination of these two legacies created an exceptional multi-sector fortune rooted in land, agriculture, distribution networks, industrial operations, and large-scale corporate holdings. What makes the Entrecanales Domecq family unique is how they leverage their heritage into a diversified empire. While Domecq became a global brand, associated with premium sherry, brandy, and winemaking prestige, the Entrecanales branch invested heavily in infrastructure, construction, and energy, giving the combined dynasty ownership in industries with extremely long-term value. Their agricultural holdings span vast estates that continue to produce some of Spain's most respected wines. Their industrial and energy investments include large-scale projects across Europe and the Americas, reinforcing their position as a multi-billion family with both historical and modern foundations. The true strength of the dynasty lies in how they adapted over generations. Instead of relying solely on heritage brands, they continued to expand into renewable energy, international construction projects, water operations, and diversified portfolios that protect them from market volatility. They have maintained influence within Spain's economic, cultural, and philanthropic sectors, shaping industries while preserving traditions that date back centuries. Their wealth is a reflection of two powerful lineages merging into a single, multi-generational empire that continues to evolve with strategic precision, ensuring their place among Spain's most influential and enduring families. Number 3. Benjumea family. At number 3 is the Benjumea family, a dynasty whose fortune is rooted in energy, engineering, and the strategic expansion of infrastructure across continents. Their empire was built through Abello, a company that grew from a modest electrical engineering firm into one of the most sophisticated renewable energy and infrastructure groups in the world. Solar plants in the United States, desalination facilities in Africa, transmission lines across Latin America, and advanced engineering projects throughout Europe all carry the imprint of Benjumea leadership. Their ascent wasn't accidental. The family understood earlier than most that the future of global energy would revolve around innovation, sustainability, and large-scale technological capability. Abello's focus on cutting-edge engineering placed the dynasty at the center of some of the world's most ambitious renewable energy projects. Even after corporate restructurings, divestments, and financial transitions, the Benjumea lineage maintained influence through diversified investments, private equity stakes, and holdings that continue to produce long-term value. Their fortune, measured in the multi-billion range, reflects not just the legacy of Abello, but the broader industrial ecosystem they shaped. The dynasty remains connected to high-level energy initiatives, infrastructure development groups, financial institutions, and investment platforms that continue to expand the family's reach. The Benjumea model demonstrates a truth often hidden from public view. Families who master both engineering and finance control industries the world depends on. Their influence extends far beyond Spain because their expertise lies in solving the kinds of problems nations pay billions to fix. Water scarcity, solar energy generation, grid capacity, and large-scale infrastructure demand vision and capital. And for decades, the Benjumea family supplied both. Their legacy continues through the next generations, who oversee investments in renewables, industrial technology, and global sustainability ventures, keeping the dynasty firmly among Spain's wealthiest and most structurally important families. Number 2. March family. At number 2 is the March family, one of Europe's most discreet but powerful financial dynasties. Their empire was founded by Juan March Ordenas, a businessman whose ability to navigate banking, tobacco trade, and political environments made him one of the most influential economic figures of the 20th century. Today, the dynasty controls Corporación Financiera Alba, one of Spain's most respected investment holding companies. The March family's wealth is built on a strategy that blends conservative risk management with high-precision capital allocation. Their holdings include major stakes in blue-chip Spanish companies, international conglomerates, real estate platforms, and global investment funds. They maintain influence in banking through Banca March, one of the few remaining fully family-owned private banks in Europe, a rarity in a world dominated by institutional consolidation. This bank caters to high-net-worth individuals and institutional clients, managing billions through investment vehicles that consistently outperform market benchmarks. What sets the March dynasty apart is the closed-circle governance model. Family members occupy key positions across their financial ecosystem, ensuring continuity, discipline, and absolute control over strategic direction. Their wealth is estimated in the multi-billion tier, with assets spread across energy, real estate, industrial manufacturing, consumer companies, and private market funds. But unlike tech billionaires or high-visibility retail giants, the March family avoids publicity. Their power is engineered to be invisible. They quietly hold seats on corporate boards that shape Spain's economic landscape. Their investment vehicles influence national capital flows. Their bank manages the fortunes of some of Europe's wealthiest families. And their geographic diversification protects them from volatility, making their financial fortress one of the strongest in the European Union. The March dynasty is the definition of silent wealth: controlled, calculated, and generational. Number 1. Ortega family. At number 1 is the Ortega family, undisputedly the richest family in Spain and one of the wealthiest in the entire world. Their empire began with a single clothing workshop in Galicia and evolved into Inditex, the global fashion giant that owns Zara, Massimo Dutti, Bershka, Stradivarius, Pull & Bear, and other powerhouse brands. What makes the Ortega dynasty exceptional isn't just the scale of Inditex, but the architecture behind it. Amancio Ortega perfected the fast fashion model long before competitors understood its potential. Short production cycles, rapid adaptation to consumer demand, vertically integrated logistics, and real-time supply chain systems became the pillars of a retail empire worth tens of billions. But the real brilliance of the Ortega family lies in what came after. They diversified into real estate through Pontegadia, one of the largest private real estate companies in the world. Their portfolio includes premium office buildings, luxury retail properties, and corporate towers in New York, London, Madrid, Miami, Toronto, Chicago, and other global capitals. These properties generate massive rental income, creating a stable financial engine that rivals the profitability of Inditex itself. This dual structure model, a global retail empire paired with a global real estate empire, gives the Ortega family one of the most resilient wealth platforms on Earth. Their fortune, estimated in the tens of billions, is protected by diversified international holdings, unmatched supply chain mastery, and strategic asset acquisition that continues to expand year after year. The Ortega dynasty's influence extends across fashion, international real estate, logistics, and corporate governance. Their empire is studied by business schools, admired by investors, and emulated by competitors. No family in Spain comes close to their scale, efficiency, or global power. They represent the pinnacle of European generational wealth built not on heritage, but on a business model so effective it reshaped an entire industry worldwide. From industrial empires to global energy giants, from pharmaceutical dynasties to the world's largest fashion empire, these families built fortunes that didn't rely on noise or spectacle. They relied on ownership, discipline, and long-term vision. Their companies move millions of people every day, power entire regions, influence global supply chains, and shape the modern economy in ways most of the world never sees. Spain's wealth isn't loud. It's engineered quietly, protected carefully, and built to last for generations. Which of these powerful Spanish families surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's richest dynasties.